Hello. So you'll have to excuse me. I'm still a little bit sick, but uh, I've been playing around with this crazy idea of, mm, well, the origins of it isn't that crazy because I've been reflecting a lot on how to use agents, and I don't think it makes sense that you want to have agents that just does everything for you from start to end, even though I think that's the hype with agents because we're just thinking about how capable the agent is. We're not thinking about what we actually want out of that and to what degree we can control it and where it leaves us. Um, like in terms of if we don't make any decisions, if we don't own the output of the agent, where does that actually leave us? Um, so I wanted to try something else where, like, every time programmers and engineers has become more productive is when there's been like abstractions to code. And then I thought about like um, how I've often been in discussions where you want to have a higher bandwidth with the computer. So you don't want to write all the code. You kind of want your thinking to become code, but you still want to code, right? And what could that mean for the next abstraction of programming, like a programming language? So yeah, I just started playing around with it. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna open this test project. Let's see. By the way, does it have? I think there's something in package.json. Yeah, let's remove that. Cool. So I'm just gonna open this test project and then I think we're just gonna try it. So the way what it's based on is that you implement features. That's like the abstraction. So you don't think files and folders, you just think features. So I didn't actually test this, if this would actually work, which it didn't. Well, that kind of sucks. Oh, come on. That's what you get for using AI. Nothing happens when I click new feature. Let's fix that first. Let's see. Oh yeah. Let's see. Yeah, so everything's a feature, and then you write Markdown basically, but you have these tags. So you can think of them as decorators. They have like special meaning in the document. And what's going to happen, I kind of need to show it because it's kind of mind bending what happens. But the point is that you still author your intentions. But instead of writing a traditional programming language, you have a higher abstraction to do so. Um, let's see here. Let's see here. And I think we're going to use the... what was the auth example we tested with? Let's see if it works now. Do I have to refresh or something? Oh, I think maybe I have to close it. Let's try again. New feature. Look at that. Let's see if we have that example. Yeah, exactly. We're just going to copy this. Let's see. Let's call it auth. Oh, look at that. It even inserts stuff. That's cool. Yes, and then you have these different... Fuck, I just saved it. Anyways, so you have these different directives. So you can hover them. And you can also, like when you it's kind of like a mention thing. But when I save now, what's actually happening is that an agent is kind of compiling this into actual code. And this is your collaboration tool. So the agent kind of writes back to this. We're going to talk more about how it works. It's kind of cool. Let's see what happens. So we can see that it started writing things here. And the whole point is that this file is actually the source of truth. Why is it still working? Ah, fuck, do I have... No, there we go. Okay, cool. So the point is that this file is the source of truth. So when you write something and you save, the agent starts working on syncing the code base up with that module. And then as it implements, it will sync back to that same file. So you can see here that it started adding some things, like it added JSON Web Token as packages. And then I guess it added, I can't remember if it added some rules. Yeah, I think it added this export. Anyways, and it also asked me to clarify something. So this requires a package for, please install it with, okay. So let's do that. Let's see. Okay, it is installed. And then I also want to throw error. So if I save now, I can continue writing here, by the way, if I want to do that. It's not going to like stumble into each other. But the interesting thing is that I also see, I should see, I'm using Git here. You'll have to excuse me, I haven't prepared anything. So I'm using Git to kind of show what you actually changed, but I think it's showing like the full Git diff. Yeah, because these are like, yeah, it's not, what I wanted it to do is to like show this as a green line and this as a green line, but it's actually showing the Git diff of the file. So it doesn't really reflect what you actually changed. It's like more the full change of the file. So I should make that better. Yeah, so now it went through, and now the point is that what you see here is what should be in the code. And if we take a look at this thing, yeah, now it throws an error. And then we had the packages installed, so everything's fine. And that's also a thing, is like, normally with an agent, it can do many things. It can install packages and everything, but that's not the point here. The point here is to have the same experience as you do doing programming, but just with a higher abstraction syntax. And then you have the agent under the hood that's responsible for keeping that in sync. And then I think I can go in here and we can try to add something. Yeah, here you can see like the different things. Like decisions, purpose. Yeah, I'm not sure what all of this is actually. I've just played with this for like 30 minutes. So, but yeah, so we can go in and add a test. Throws when invalid token. If I save this now, the agent starts working again. And if I go and do something like throws when expired token, I can save again. And then that save gets queued. So now the agent is working on the previous version of it. And when it writes back, it's going to merge what I did with what it had updated. And then that's going to go out to the agent again. Of course, part of the experience here is that you have... Oh, hi Adam. Sorry, I didn't have... Why didn't the comments... Why aren't the comments showing? That's weird. Is it overlays? Yeah, I'm not sure. I think I have to... Yeah. whatever. I'm gonna pop in and look at the comments. Sorry, I'm on my other computer. Oh, interesting. Yours agent. Oh, that's bad. It wasn't supposed to show that. It was supposed to actually merge it. I'll have to ask it about that. I suddenly got this. I thought it would resolve the conflicts where my changes always wins. Well, I guess that's the biggest challenge with this. It's like, yeah, that's with any collaborative text document, like who wins. But yeah, anyways, so the point is, if I just remove this now, we should have some tests in there. Throws when invalid token. What about the expired one? Oh, here we go. Oh, sorry. Oh, I see the conflict indicator at the top. It even states for me to resolve them. It makes sense to automatically resolve conflicts, but also give a better indication on these conflicts. Yeah, can work on that in the meantime. Okay, so it tells me to resolve the conflict, but this should be auto-resolved, but still, like, it wasn't a very good indication here. So let me go in and then I'll save it again, because this would normally automatically happen, right? Because I had my updated test was waiting in queue, was supposed to merge it and then send it back to the agent, and then it would actually add that other test. But because it saw the conflict, I had to manually fix it. So I think as an experience, it's very slow. Like you're used to saving a file, it saves the file, which doesn't happen here. But at the same time, I am the one that actually decides what's going to be in each feature. And also I would be able to, the idea is that each agent is bound to the specific feature it works on. So the way you work in parallel isn't about like doing work trees and stuff. It's you can safely work in different features. Oh, what the hell happened here? Oh, it just moved the test, sorry. But yeah, now we have that. Though it didn't add any testing setup here. And I think that's kind of the biggest thing is if you want to use, like it's using an agent under the hood, but it's almost like I don't want to even say agent. I just want to say compiling, because you shouldn't treat it as an agent at all, right? That's the whole purpose. Let's do that. So I want to avoid the term agent. Let's call it compile. It is like the agent is compiling. Yeah, exactly. It got conflicts merging it. But I thought we could try to do something where I actually write something from scratch, like just a to-do app or something. Because I have no idea what's going to happen here. And there's so many things that, like, I don't think there will ever be anything out of this. It's just a fun experiment, and especially a thought experiment. But it would be fun to try to write something from scratch. So we can do that. Let's delete this and then let us remove this stuff, this stuff. Yeah, even auth. And I think we can safely like, because that's also a thing. I want to choose as an engineer. This is kind of the point. Is like when you think of a generic agent, it does like everything. But here I want the agent to act as a compiler. It's only going to be able to touch files. It's not going to run bash or anything like that. That's still what I do. So even the agent, like it's using Claude, but it only has access to manipulating files. It doesn't have bash. So let's see, npm install react DOM. I guess that's enough. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, and npm install types react DOM -- dev. Is that how you do it? Oh yeah, so it's a good point about specifying language. I haven't done that here. I would imagine, but that's it's a funny thing you mentioned that, because like all compilers has like a specific target, right? But here you don't have a specific target. You can choose whatever target you want, which is kind of cool. So yeah, you could like have a drop down and you would specify the language, and it would just be part of the system prompt. But again, it's like it would never be, well, that's the big question. It's like how trustworthy would it be? Like it's generative, right? But again, like it's scoped. It has the context of the actual like mod file. It has the context from the folder. I don't know. So let's see. How would I think about this? I guess we could try to just do like a to-dos. Like how would I think about features this way? Yeah, even that's like, because normally you would just write and just say go and create this thing, and you don't, and but that's also the problem, right? If you just say what you want, you don't get to choose exactly how it's structured and all of this stuff. And that's kind of like what we want to do here. But how would you, yeah, let's just do like to-dos. And then purpose. What's a purpose? Yeah. Helps the agent understand intent. Does not generate code. Yeah, and then you have exports. Yeah, it feels more systematic. That's the thing. Like when you think about UI and React and components and stuff, it's like a very, but maybe that could also be a decorator, like UI. I don't know. And rules, implement each rule becomes code. Yeah, I'm gonna ask it actually. So if I wanted to use this system to create like a to-do app, how would you organize the features and the contents of mod? I think it has a lot of context on things we've been working on, so I think Claude understands what we're trying to do. I'm gonna create like a Claude MD file for this. Here's how I'd structure it. Share types, the data model, persistence layer, API. Yeah, if you have, yeah, and UI. Oh, interesting. Okay, we're just gonna do what it tells us here. This is gonna be interesting. Can I delete? Ah, I can't delete. Um, and then, sorry about this. Okay, open. What was it? Types? But then again, like it's very unnatural to. Yeah, I'm trying to put it in context of how I typically code. I'm not inventing a language. I'm not sure what I'm doing. Um, create to do, get to do's. Okay, I'm just gonna read this. This is interesting. Module store. Mm-hmm. Like this conceptually makes sense to me. That this is your intent, but like the practice of working this way, that's the thing that doesn't feel natural. Rules, tests. Maybe I should reflect on these directives. Like tests makes a lot of sense. But then I guess what I'm curious about is like what directives would you use to define what you want, and what directives would be the AI just um, syncing up things. But okay, I'm just gonna try to take this and then types. Compiling. It's kind of funny. Okay, and then let's just move on. I'm actually not sure if it creates like this is such a bad demo. Like it should be me trying to express what we want here. Okay, we're gonna try again. Let's see. Let's try again. Boop. So let's open test. I'm gonna add a new feature, which is to do state. That's how I would think about it. And the purpose, the state for managing to-dos, and it should export. What was the format it was using here? Yeah, interesting. So this would be like get to-dos, to do, add to do, title string. I guess I can use void. Remove to do, ID string, I guess. Move to do toggle to do ID string. Uh-huh. And what rules just doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah, let me see if I can think about this from a perspective where yeah, 'cause this is the weird thing. It's like hmm, yeah. No, this doesn't feel natural at all. Hmm. The thing that breaks me is a component. Like if I have to do UI, like what's that? It's not exports. It would be more like it would be something else. Yeah. But I wonder if that should be a thing, like components. Because what's nice about it is that instead of actually implementing each component, you will be, well, let's just write it. So what if there was like components? And you could say, how would I, oh, sorry, let's create another one. Let's just save this and see what happens. And then we can do a new feature to do UI. And then what would I do for to-dos? So exports here would be, well, it wouldn't have any exports. Let's just call it components. And I would say something like add to do, what's it called? To do's list. And then I might have like filter and stuff like that. But I don't see how this could like work. As it depends on to do state. And this would of course be like auto completed and validated and stuff. Oh, did it? Oh, there we go. Oh, this is interesting. Maintains to-dos in module level array of functions, return copies of state to prevent direct mutations. Okay, interesting. How does it look like? Yeah, but it's like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, no, I have to think about this. It kind of doesn't, like conceptually it makes sense, but it's weird. It's super weird. Like I got excited by the initial test, but it's like if I were to write like some backend stuff, it will make much more sense because it's like it's very API driven. But the front end is so different. It's not very API driven. Like you have these components and yeah. No, but this was a really bad stream. I thought it would be more interesting. Hmm. Like it this is so annoying because it is interesting. It's just that I never done anything like this before and I never written anything like this before. So it's really hard for me to like express what I want. That's when you think that something works, is when you see someone that just intuitively does it, right? But I just spent like 30 minutes building this thing and then okay, let's see what happens. But okay, I'm not gonna give up quite yet. Um, so I'm thinking about components. Like the thing that bothers me is like, how would you express as a feature? Like typically you have like a entry point, right? For React, you have the entry point, which is the main file. And in the main file, that's where you kind of wire up the app. Yeah, maybe that is a feature. Okay. Yeah, and then I'm thinking about you have exports, but you also have, maybe we shouldn't call them components, but you have like functions in a module that isn't exported. So that could be multiple components. Um, yeah, let me. So I'm thinking about components and generally files that are not really exported, just part of the module. Should we have a directive for that? That would make things more meaningful for me. So that you just say, these are the exports from the feature. These are the like function definitions or whatever you want to call them for the feature. Yeah, because then you could say like render, right? So you have a feature that's called like render basically. And that render thing has like yeah, but that's also an issue, right? Because you typically just render directly from the main file as it's being loaded, right? So what would that be? Like inline, like that. It's yeah, it feels like a too high abstraction for some things. Files. That's a really oh yeah. So it means files as in these are individual files in the module. Yeah, exactly. So the module exports is like the index file. Like this is also a mental game. The the exports is the index file. But then you can also have define the specific files of the module. Yeah, and then you just describe them. That's interesting. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. Internal structure, exactly. Uh, but okay, add this, but also like with React, you would also do inline things. like render. Um, there's nothing really for that. Also, there is no entry point for the features. That is also weird. How should we solve this? Yeah, this is interesting, but it's weird. Oh, hi. Yeah, so I'm. Oh, maybe you dropped out. Yeah, so I'm just playing. I spent like 30 minutes building this tiny little editor, and the idea is to think about development as a set of features, where you have a feature language that compiles down to whatever language you want, but it uses AI to do so, which is kind of insane. But the point is that I'm trying to create like an actual developer experience that we know, which is to do programming. But you don't have to know the language, you don't have to type everything, you just express your intent, and then it compiles into whatever language you want. And then there's an actual agent that is the compiler, and it will sync back what it does into this file, this feature file. So you're going to have this agent or this compiler syncing back what it does. So if it needs clarification, it will note those things, it will note what decisions were made. So it's kind of like it's this quirky merge of planning and writing code. And I no idea if it makes sense. Side effects, wiring things together. These aren't exports. They're things that module does when it runs. Oh, interesting. Yeah, run module UI depends on. It's an entry point. If a module has side effects, yeah, it does. It's an entry point or initialization code. Okay, let us try both. But yeah, but the question is like, this is a Vite application. Oh no, it's not a Vite application. It should be a Vite application. Maybe you just have to select an entry point. Like all programs has an entry point. Yeah, you would have to do that. Okay, let us try both. So when you open up the project, you have to choose which file that is the bootstrapper, the entry point. So for a Vite application, that would be like main whatever. Yeah. And then you will kind of have this special, it starts to get a bit special, everything. Oh, did I explain it okay now? Um, I wonder how I get the comments to stick on the show overlays window. Oh, look at this. And then is one of these comments. New shape. No. I can't remember how. Wait, is it this one? No, I don't know why I can't see the comments. Ah, this sucks. Scene. Overlays. Show overlays window. I think I'm supposed to have. Add last comment as overlay. New image, animated, countdown overlay, widget overlay. Is it widget overlay? No, that's definitely not it. Whatever. I've been thinking more. So when you open a project, you have to define the bootstrapping file. Where everything else. Isn't that true? Like all applications has a bootstrap file. Well, you will have things like Next.js, which is something very different. But okay, let's drop that part. Let's just have files and run, and then we're gonna see what we can do about that. Cool. And then we're gonna have a new feature, which is called render. Renders the application. Depends on to-do's UI at least. Run. Render the main. This is so weird. I'm kind of. But what if I save now? There is no to-do component. I wonder what's going to happen. Let's just try it. Because I haven't actually added a to-do's component yet. So let's just see what happens. Well, main to-do component. That's weird. To-do's component. But I think the biggest challenge here is like it takes time for every save. One thing is if it's just spewing out like generative code, but it doesn't do that. It takes time. Which is definitely the hardest part. But yeah, now I'm defining something that doesn't exist yet. I know I have a to-do's UI feature and it's gonna have like some to-do's component. Oh, it takes a long time. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is great. This is exactly what I mean. The to-do's UI module needs to be implemented to provide a main to-do that is right now. Yeah, exactly. So that's great, right? And then I can go into to-do's UI and I can say creates the UI for the to-dos. And it's going to export to-dos. And I wonder about the state management here. But yeah, I'm not going to care about that. So it's just returning some JSX. I want like add to do returns JSX and to do's list, which returns some JSX, and it depends on to do state. Okay, let's just see what happens. So the point is, like, if you ask an agent to build a to-do app, you can do that very well, right? But the point is, you don't choose anything. You don't choose how to structure it. You don't choose the names of things, and all of this. So it's like trying to find an experience where you feel like you're still coding, but you're not writing actual code. But yeah, running the agent, it just takes too long, I think. But yeah, maybe you would work more in parallel. Maybe, I don't know. Let's play with it. We're just playing. There's something wrong with the state here. Oh, there's actually had to do. Oh, this is interesting. Oh, it literally. Oh, okay. Depends. Oh, is that like literal? Interesting. Can't find my namespace JSX. Yeah, I should probably call it React Node instead. Oh, but then it just implements states, right? Yeah. And this is not working. Though the point is that it didn't understand depends. Can you tell me how you instruct how depends work? Because there's a different one called packages, which are like external dependencies. Because what I was hoping for is like you have to do state, and it should actually infer that it's the actual feature to do state. So it's probably something wrong in the instructions. But if it had that, it should probably have some clarification on how this state would actually update React. So I would have to add like a subscribe thing to the state. Is it just me, or is Claude incredibly slow? It's pretty thin, just as in. Oh, yeah. Please, yeah. Please do that. I'm not gonna go into the nitty-gritty details. This is just for fun. So we're gonna have something here. Okay, so we're gonna try writing this again after we have that change. So let's remove that. Let's remove this. Let's start again. So to do UI. Yeah, there's something wrong with the rendering here. By the way, we're gonna move this into files. And then React. React node, React node. But again, it's like, should I even? Let's just do UI. UI. Depends on to do state. Okay, I'm curious what's gonna happen now. But I do wonder if there was like if you didn't have like an actual agent in the background, like you would have an actual like harness design to be super fast to like act as a compiler. If that could be a good experience. Maybe not. And the whole point is that you should be able to be relatively vague. You should express intent and structure. That's what you want, intent and structure. And then as it's compiling, it brings back more information, more specific information, which you can evaluate and then change. Yeah, like this. Oh yeah, so this is, oh yeah, exports, this is more for typing, and then files is more, yeah, for component for adding new. Yeah, exactly, that makes more sense. Mm-hmm. And then rules to do's in the main component that combine. Yeah. Interesting. Okay, did it actually import the thing now? To do's. To do's list. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so now it does it. That's great. Oh, and it actually does refresh to do's. Yeah, but this is the thing, right? It uses. Does it say anything about that? Oh, it uses polling to stay in sync. Yeah. Oh, this is interesting. But okay, I think we're like getting somewhere. Um, I think I'm gonna play a little bit more with this. Where we can do another stream where we'll try to create an actual to-do app. So we're just gonna use Vite, have a entry point that we kind of put together ourselves, and then we'll just use these features. What happens now if I do to this? Let's should subscribe to changes to to-dos. Subscribes to changes to to-do state. It's kind of weird calling it rules. Maybe not. Yeah, we're just going to try this and then I'll drop out. But yeah, again, I think experience-wise, the problem is that it's so incredibly slow. But again, there's something wrong with Claude these days. It takes forever to do very simple changes. As you could see, like even I was doing something relatively simple and it took forever. I think they just have way too much traffic. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Oh, this is interesting. So it didn't ask for any clarification or anything. I'm very curious what it did now. Subscribe. But what? Notify. Where is this coming from? Oh, interesting. Yeah, I guess it makes sense. But I guess then you could say, like, what if I went into to do state now and then I exposed, like, subscribe? Let's just do that, subscribe. I guess that would be something like this. Yeah, and yeah, no, I think I would do this differently. So instead of like, I think it would be more specific. Like you would just define these functions. And then exports, they reference existing functions. And in a function, you do like the components or the files. Like you just give it a name, what it does. And this feels wrong to me. Like rules are separate from it. It should be bound to the one thing. Yeah, because that's how I think as a developer. It's like, and I think this just doesn't reflect that at all. It's like I have a module, I can write the purpose, but then having like separate depends, separate packages, all of this doesn't really make sense. I think. Um, it would be more like, yeah, I don't know. Fuck it, I don't know. Maybe this was just a dumb thing. Probably was. Oh well, I'm gonna jump out. I'm gonna play more with it. I'm gonna try to just change the directives to be much more like defining functions because that's really what like functions and classes. Um, but the way you define them is basically just using free text like this. So this is kind of the format. And then, so you would have maybe objects and functions. So you don't think like classes and stuff. You have objects and functions. And you can define those and you can say exports and then you can choose what like objects and functions are exported. And yeah, and you could have constants. So more like generic programming primitives, but you use natural language to describe what they do. But sorry, that gives you structure. Wait, we're just going to do this. So I do not like the directives. I think we should have function which describes what a function does, object which describes an object type, constant which describes constants, yeah, and then all of them uses the pattern name description, because I got a bit confused by like the explicit typing and stuff, but I don't really think yeah, it's interesting the typing, because you do want control of that, of course you do. But then you have like function input, you have function output. Yeah, and I actually don't. I want function. Sorry. Yeah, you know what? Which describes. Describe a function and what it does. Directive name. Description 1. Description 2. Yeah, I like that better. Let's try this. Oh, I don't like the. Oh, fuck. I don't like the. What was it? Files? What was it? Files, files and rules directives. Yeah, this is going to be interesting. Let's try this. Sorry about this being such a slow stream, but that's what I do. I just jump into things. Let's remove that. Makes sense, of course, you think so, Claude. You always agree with me. I love that. Makes me feel smart. Yeah, those bullets. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Okay, this is going to be interesting. So, let us try again and see how it looks like now. So we're going to have some to-do state. The state of to-dos. Yeah, and this is going to be an object called to-do, which is going to, okay, this is much better. ID, which is a string, completed, which is a boolean, and then title which is a string. Yeah, and the question then is an array. Yeah, and I think object to-dos, list of to-dos. This is the point. Like, you don't have to, you can just write things. And you could argue if that's a good or a bad thing. But yeah, we don't have rules anymore. And then we want a function of get to-dos turns the current to-dos. Well, that's the thing. Do we want that? No. What we want is object state. Oh, sorry. The to-dos. Well, I guess to-dos. Show the to-dos. And then subscribe. Yeah, this is also interesting. So you have object. Well, I guess you can do that. Get to-dos. Oh my god. Anyways, exports state. Instance of state. Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. And again, it's kind of weird to do state management in React because you would use a library for it. You wouldn't do it like this. So it becomes really artificial. Yeah, this is weird still. Super weird. Anyways, add to do. Adds that to do. What to do. Set to do. And then, but we're going to try it. We're going to see what it generates. And then subscribe to do changes. Okay, let's just try this. Because for me, I'm thinking about what it actually implements. And the whole point is that you should just have like system thinking. Like you should think about objects and functions and all of this stuff. You shouldn't think about the actual implementation. Yeah, I'm curious what it comes up with. Let's see. Implement state. Oh, interesting. Well, create to do state. But it only exports the types. It didn't export the actual. Did it do anything? No. But it's correct. Only that it didn't actually export But that could be the instruction. Uh, like the point, I don't want these to have like very specific meanings. To-dos, list of to-dos. Yeah, but now it just has like, okay, this is interesting. Yeah, it does have to-dos, sorry. Yeah. But the exports didn't quite work for some reasons. Probably the instructions. Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. But there's like so much complexity to this. Like even just subscribing, like implementing state for React, you really need a library. You can't really do it like this. Hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure if this makes any sense. Because the point is like, if you have a language, yeah, I think that's the main issue here is that if you think about it from a language perspective, so when I did the initial testing, it was like this auth thing that just used like a function, and it makes a lot of sense if you use the primitives of the language. But in like the reason I'm like stumbling so much now is because of the high abstraction of React itself. Like you have these component functions, um, which are not really normal functions. At least you don't call them, right? You compose them as JSX, and and then you have state management. You don't create classes and subscribe and all of this like you do in other languages, where you use more the language than these higher abstractions. So I guess that's where it kind of falls apart. Is like, how would you describe these things? So object and function doesn't really make sense either. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna stop streaming. It was kind of fun to see it working, but it, at least in its current state, it makes absolutely no sense. But maybe there is something here. Maybe this is like, if you think about gaming, like how we use generative AI to like make the game good, right? It feels the same here. It's like you're using generative. It's almost like you're in gaming. You're what do they call it? Well, they call it rendering. Like rendering, compiling. It's kind of the same process. Um, and they use AI for rendering, or at least part of the rendering step. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Anyways, bye for now.